Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about something that rarely makes the headlines, but has quietly shaped India's rise on the global stage. Two democracies, two civilizations with thousands of years of survival, one in South Asia, the other in the Middle East, separated by geography, but united by something deeper, trust. In a world of shifting alliances and fragile diplomacy, the question is, why does India trust Israel more than any other ally? Let's unpack that. Let's go back to 1999, the Kargil War. India was in the middle of one of its most critical modern conflicts. The stakes were high. Indian soldiers were scaling vertical cliffs under enemy fire, defending territory in extreme Himalayan conditions. The world was watching, but most nations stayed silent. Some of India's so-called allies, surprisingly, hesitated. They waited. They calculated political fallout. But Israel didn't sit. Israel acted. Instantly. When India needed precision bombs, surveillance support, and battlefield intelligence, Israel was among the very few nations that responded with speed, discretion, and sincerity. It wasn't a press conference move. It wasn't about diplomatic optics. Israel simply did what a true friend does in a crisis. It showed up. They sent laser-guided bombs that tipped the balance in India's air superiority. They provided UAVs, unmanned aerial vehicles, that gave Indian forces an eye in the sky. They offered satellite data, real-time imagery, and the kind of actionable intelligence that saves lives on the ground. This wasn't just military support, it was a signal that said, "We believe in your right to defend yourself. We won't let bureaucracy stand in the way of security." Israel didn't need to debate it. They didn't need international consensus. They saw a democratic nation being challenged on its sovereignty, and they acted quickly, quietly, effectively. And that moment, that one move, rewrote India's perception of trust. Because when the bullets fly and lives are at stake, words don't matter, speeches don't matter, action matters. That decision by Israel built a foundation that today supports one of the most discreet but powerful strategic relationships in the world. India never forgot that, and neither did Israel. Because sometimes, true alliances aren't forged in handshakes, they're forged in fire. You don't often hear this publicly, but behind the scenes, RAW and Mossad have one of the deepest, most effective intelligence-sharing relationships on the planet. And it's not some shallow, headline-making pact. This is real, operational-level cooperation. Think data pipelines. Think covert analysis. Think boots-on-the-ground intel, swaps that happen without the world ever knowing. Both nations, India and Israel, live in tough neighborhoods. Let's be honest. Pakistan, Iran, Syria, Afghanistan, terror networks, cyber actors. These aren't distant threats, they're real, and they're present. So, what happens when two nations with a common mission preserve national security while upholding democracy, join forces at the intelligence level? You get something rare, something precise, and something powerful. After the devastating 26/11 attacks in Mumbai, it wasn't just Indian resilience that kicked in. Behind the scenes, Israel helped India reimagine urban warfare preparedness, from training modules to counter-terror protocols. Mossad shared methods honed through decades of conflict. It wasn't about ego, it wasn't even about ideology, it was about operational efficiency. How to respond fast, how to limit civilian damage, how to neutralize threats in real time. And here's the thing, the average citizen may never see this. That's the nature of intelligence. You only notice it when it fails. But thanks to RAW Mossad cooperation, several planned terror attacks on Indian soil were neutralized quietly, long before they ever made it to the news. It's not flashy, it's not public, but it's deep, tested, and effective. This is what I call blood-level trust. Not handshake diplomacy, not PR alliances, but real, time-sensitive, high-stakes coordination. And in the world we live in, where intelligence can prevent wars, save lives, and shape geopolitics, this kind of partnership is not just valuable, it's irreplaceable. Let's talk defense. Because here's where the relationship between India and Israel gets really interesting. It's not noisy, it's not flashy, but it's one of the most productive, efficient defense relationships in the modern world. Over the last 2 decades, Israel has consistently supplied India with next-gen military technology, cutting-edge radar systems, precision missiles, electronic warfare equipment, border surveillance systems, and battle-tested drones. But what makes this special isn't just the gear. it's the mindset. Israel doesn't come in with strings attached. It doesn't preach. It doesn't impose political conditions. It delivers quietly, reliably, respectfully. That sip's rare. India is a proud democracy. It doesn't take well to micromanagement or condescension. And Israel understands that intuitively. Unlike some suppliers that use defense trade to dictate foreign policy, Israel respects Indian sovereignty. When India needs something, Israel figures out how to get it done fast. Whether it's during wartime emergencies or peacetime upgrades, Israel moves with engineering discipline and military urgency. And look, I've built rockets. I've dealt with defense systems. I can tell you speed and trust matter more than anything. Talk to officers in the Indian Air Force or Army, and you still hear the same thing. Israeli tech works. It sits reliable, it sits adapted for real battle zones, not just showrooms. Here's a great example. India's growing fleet of Israeli Heron drones. These UAVs are not just for surveillance. They're used for high-altitude reconnaissance, border patrol, and even strike coordination. Then there's the Barak missile system, a joint development project that's one of the cornerstones of India's naval defense. And Israel isn't just selling off-the-shelf stuff. It's collaborating, co-developing tech with DRDO, sharing innovations, customizing systems to fit India's terrain, threats, and strategies. That's not transactional, that's transformational. In a world where defense ties are often a mess of red tape and ego, India-Israel defense relations are refreshingly drama-free. Because both sides understand what's at stake. Security isn't about headlines, it's about readiness. And in that arena, Israel has proven over and over again that it's a partner India can count on without the noise. No lectures, no delays, just delivery. That's why Indian soldiers, pilots, and naval officers trust Israeli defense tech with their lives. And that kind of trust, you don't sit by it. You earn it. Now let's step back from the military for a moment and talk about something more human, culture. You see, there's a reason this alliance doesn't feel forced. There's something organic about the India-Israel bond. Let's start with a powerful fact. India is the only country in the world where Jews have never faced persecution. Never, not once. Over 2,000 years of Jewish presence in India, and not a single instance of organized anti-Semitism. That's not just rare, that's historic. In Kerala, Maharashtra, and Kolkata, Jewish communities lived peacefully alongside Hindus, Muslims, and Christians. They flourished, and they stayed. This legacy of tolerance, pluralism, and respect means that Israel doesn't see India as a strategic convenience. It sees it as a natural ally. And the feeling is mutual. Just take a walk through any Indian city popular with Israeli tourists, places like Rishikesh, Kasol, or Goa. You'll hear Hebrew signs, see Israeli cafes, and find Indian locals who speak fluent Hebrew just from years of cultural exchange. You'll find Indian yoga teachers conducting sessions for Israeli veterans dealing with trauma. You'll find joint academic research in philosophy, history, and spirituality. You'll even find Indian and Israeli musicians jamming together in cafes, fusing sitar with synth. This isn't soft power, this is shared energy. Two cultures that understand struggle. Two nations built after centuries of invasion, oppression, and chaos. And two societies that believe in resilience, family, education, and innovation. Israel admires India's spiritual depth. India respects Israel's survival instinct. And when nations connect, not just at the political level, but at the civilizational level, the bond is much harder to break. It's not dictated by governments, it's written in the hearts of people. And in the coming decades, when much of diplomacy becomes digital and impersonal, this cultural glue will keep the India-Israel alliance warm, real, and enduring. Because partnerships based on trust are good. But partnerships based on shared soul, that's unstoppable. Now let's shift focus from geopolitics to innovation, from military cooperation to something that touches everyday lives, agriculture, and technology. Israel is a desert nation. Less water, less arable land, yet it's turned barren fields into blooming orchards. That's not magic, that's engineering, science, and relentless innovation. And India, with its massive agricultural sector and diverse climates, is leveraging that same Israeli mindset to transform farming. Let's talk facts. Israel introduced drip irrigation to India, a water-efficient method that delivers nutrients directly to the roots, drop by drop. In drought-prone states like Gujarat and Rajasthan, this has revolutionized yields. Farmers now grow more with less. And this is not charity. This is collaboration. India has opened 30-plus centers of excellence for horticulture in partnership with Israel, from mangoes in Maharashtra to vegetables in Punjab. These are high-tech knowledge hubs that train farmers in cutting-edge methods. It's not just about growing crops. It's about transforming rural economies. And then there sits tech. Israel has one of the highest startup densities per capita in the world. India has one of the largest startup ecosystems by scale. When these two forces meet, you get innovation on steroids. Israeli agri-tech firms are now working with Indian partners on AI-driven soil analysis, drone-based crop monitoring, and smart greenhouses. This isn't future talk. This is happening now, in farms, in labs, in field trials, across India. Meanwhile, Indian software giants are teaming up with Israeli cybersecurity and AI firms to build next-gen platforms, from healthcare to fintech. This is not a one-way relationship. India brings scale, data, and human capital. Israel brings deep tech solutions, agility, and global reach. Together, they are building what I would call a 21st-century innovation corridor. Think about it. From water conservation to blockchain logistics, from biotech to precision farming, this alliance is solving real-world problems that matter to billions. And more importantly, they're doing it without waiting for the West to lead. India and Israel are proving that you don't need to be a superpower to build super solutions. Just two resilient nations pooling their strengths and betting on each other. This isn't set aid. This isn't set dependency. It's its mutual upliftment. It's its vision. It's its impact. And in a world that often rewards big talk over real results, this India-Israel tech and agriculture synergy stands out as a blueprint for future-ready partnerships. Here's something that's not spoken about often, but it's critical. India and Israel share enemies. And more importantly, they share the values needed to confront them. Terrorism, cyber warfare, radical extremism, both nations have been targeted, both have faced attacks on their soil, both have had to walk the line between open societies and security-focused resilience. This isn't theoretical, it's lived reality. Israel has faced existential threats since its birth. India has dealt with proxy wars, border infiltrations, and internal insurgencies for decades. But what sets unique is how both nations respond, not with victimhood, but with innovation and assertiveness. They build, they defend, they evolve, and they do so while upholding the values of democracy, diversity, and national sovereignty. Let's be real. There are countries that will partner with you for money, others for influence, some out of fear. But when two nations partner based on shared risks and shared ideals, that's when you get true strategic alignment. India's challenges from hostile neighbors are not unlike Israel's regional dynamics. Whether it's terror networks, ideological threats, or cyber sabotage, both countries are locked in a modern struggle that's as much about tech as it is about territory. And this has led to deeper collaboration in cybersecurity, counter-radicalization, and defense preparedness. Israeli firms work closely with Indian agencies on threat mapping. Indian commandos train with Israeli specialists on urban warfare. Why? Because they understand each other's terrain, each other's mindset, each other's urgency. They don't need to explain why this matters. They already know. And that's why the relationship is unshakable. It's not just about what they fight against, it's about what they fight for: stability, sovereignty, and smart strength. In a global environment full of alliances of convenience, the India-Israel bond is based on something rare: conviction. That's why this alliance isn't seasonal, it's strategic, not just reactive, it's proactive. And in the decades ahead, when global tensions escalate and power blocks shift, nations with shared values and tested trust will lead the way. India and Israel aren't just allies, they are ideological partners in an uncertain world. Let's talk about the future, not just next year, but the next decade. Because when you combine India's demographic momentum and digital prowess with Israel's deep tech innovation and agility, you get future dominance. Let's not start with space. ISRO is already world-renowned for its low-cost, high-efficiency missions. From Chandrayaan to Mangalyaan, India has mastered the art of frugal innovation, doing with $100 million what others do with $1 billion. Israel, with its aerospace startups and advanced satellite systems, brings miniaturization, precision, and analytics. Together, you get scalable, smart space missions with real commercial and strategic impact. Imagine Indian launch vehicles carrying Israeli nanosatellites that provide real-time imaging across regions of strategic interest, not just for defense, but for climate monitoring, agriculture optimization, and disaster response. Now let's talk AI. Israel is pushing boundaries in machine learning, neural networks, and autonomous defense systems. India has the scale, the largest open internet, the largest biometric database, and a fast-growing pool of AI engineers. You put that together, and what do you get? Not just academic breakthroughs, but applied intelligence. Smart cities, predictive health, AI-driven education, financial inclusion. Israel's AI precision meets India's scale, and the result is global disruption. This isn't about following the West's lead. This is about building an independent tech alliance, one that competes with Silicon Valley and Shenzhen on its own terms. And guess what? It's already happening. Startups in Tel Aviv and Bengaluru are already collaborating on blockchain logistics, climate tech, and cybersecurity. We're not talking theory, we're talking blueprints, products, and patents. And what I love most about this alliance is, it's not locked into old paradigms. It sits lean, agile, ambitious. It doesn't ask for permission, it builds. That's how the future will be shaped, not by empires, but by networks. India and Israel, through their shared vision, are becoming nodes of innovation that the rest of the world will soon orbit around. Because the future belongs to those who invent it, and this alliance is inventing fast. So when you ask, what's next? The answer is, whatever they choose to build, together. Let's wrap this up with something simple, but profound. This relationship between India and Israel, it's not just strategic, it's not just historical, it's not even just about shared threats or common enemies. It's about vision. It's about two nations who've been tested through time and conflict, and who chose to rise. India, the world's largest democracy. Israel, one of its most resilient. Both are deeply spiritual, both are fiercely innovative, both understand what it means to fight for sovereignty while building a future. You see, in geopolitics, alliances often come and go. They're transactional, temporary, built on who needs what today. But every once in a while you get a bond that runs deeper. A connection that isn't just between governments, but between peoples, between minds, between missions. That's what India and Israel have. This isn't a friendship based on convenience. It's based on conviction. Conviction in freedom, in innovation, in security, and in dignity. That's why you'll never see this alliance making a lot of noise. It doesn't need to. It performs, it builds, it protects. In a world full of noise and uncertainty, there's something profoundly reassuring about an alliance that just works quietly, consistently, and powerfully. And as the 21st century unfolds, I believe this partnership will shape more than just policy. It will shape possibility, because when India and Israel walk together, they're not walking behind anyone, they're forging a new path, based on trust, talent, technology, and timeless values. And that, in my opinion, is not just smart geopolitics, that's the future of leadership,